What's going on?
Hey, how are you doing?
Excited to be here.
I, yeah, I am too.
What's going on with your bus deal?
Well, oh my goodness, we've replaced every bus we've got out there but one, at least once. And we just got the original one back today, and they didn't plug in what looks to be like an oxygen sensor. I'm not a diesel mechanic, so I'm not, but they basically got figured out that's what it was, plugged it in, and that thing run like a top. So um, anyway, I had to go out there. The kids was screaming, hollering, oh Lord.
Yeah. So, well, you know, the good thing is um, nobody was hurt, but the bad thing is everybody acts like it's the end of the world when you have bus issues and you have mamas, everybody else
Yeah.
come take kids off the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem. But it's
They were really nice. I think they appreciated having a principal there.
yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean that's part of it. Just have somebody
yeah.
in charge there. But your maintenance and your bus garage people, I'm sure they do the best they can. But
Mm-hmm.
what people don't understand is we're not competitive in the market for college graduates for teachers, but we're not for mechanics or HVAC people or any. We're not competitive in the market for them either. And so, that's a problem. Not that the best mechanics in the world couldn't have skipped over something like that. But, I'm not surprised that something like that happened. That they forgot to plug it up. That would not surprise me at all. That's kind of where we are right now. Laura, you with us tonight? You're doing okay?
Sir, I'm here. I'm just keeping this foot elevated and hoping for the best at this point.
Well, we're praying for you. Hope you get well soon. And there's Emily.
Thank you.
So prayers for all of you. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll go ahead and get started. It's about time. So I wanted to start out tonight with our schedule where you were to go and interview an assistant principal or a principal about due process, about discipline cases. And then your follow-up was to watch one being processed this summer if at all possible. But part of the feedback that I suspect that you get from them is that it takes an inordinate amount of time, and that one of their biggest concerns is getting it right or being consistent, and so that they don't get appealed and overturned. Now, as you know, as we've talked about in due process, as the assistant principal, when you assign discipline, the parent has the right to appeal that to the principal. And then there could be a DTM, and then it go to the superintendent or the area superintendent, then the superintendent and the board, and then it can go to court. So any decision that you make can be appealed. The notion is we're trying to be equitable here, that we don't have one class of people that we give nothing and the other we shoot. That we're trying to be consistent with whatever our disciplinary process or system is in our county. Do any of you use PBIS in Gaston? Yeah. But that's great. There's no but coming on that. However, some high schools don't use it, and so they use just code of conduct. And so what I have for you, and I want you to look, and I'll share my screen. Again, welcome everybody. Let me get my share going here. If you look under Dr. Caton and Maraglia's folder, I've got an example of both. So the behavior matrix that Dr. Caton did, she's high school principal in Pitt County. She has laid this out in terms of what behaviors, what tiers, and what punishments, so that she and her assistant principals can practice inter-rater reliability. Now, you had your research and assessment semester last semester. Somebody explain inter-rater reliability to me.
To me, it means like everybody that's using that rating scale, you want to like calibrate so that you're all rating like the same thing. If you see this thing, you would rate it this way.
That is correct. So that we don't get into a shopping situation. Now, I had 6 people, as I told you, my last outpost as a principal, I had 6 APs. And I did away with the alphabet deal. I did away with the grade level deal because I didn't want people sitting around waiting to be processed. You know, we were, you know, it's kind of like, you know, McDonald's, over 1 million served. We were trying to get them through. And so whichever one came up next, but the issue becomes then, if I see it and Paris sees it and Alex sees it and Daphne sees it, do we all give the same punishment? That's inter-rater reliability, that we're consistent in what we do. So one of the things that a lot of principals will do, especially again, when they're just doing straight code of conduct, because they're in secondary and they're not using PBIS, one of the things that they do is they do a matrix like this that kind of is from their code of conduct, and it says, you know, if they do these are the things right down the line that we're going to do with in order to have consistency. That's called inter-rater reliability. Now, obviously, if you're doing PBIS, you've got a matrix that looks more like this, that, you know, that does interventions and does these kinds of things, restorative, that, you know, this would be kind of your process. And you know, it would look much different. And but in the end, what we're working toward is, you know, we're trying to avoid, what are the 2 things that we're trying to avoid in due process? Arbitrary and capricious. Arbitrary is I give more punishment to one person than the other, or capricious, I give more than is allowable for that offense. You know, I do way too much. But we're trying to do restorative justice too. We're trying to involve parents. We're trying to do those things. So hopefully when you interview those APs or those principals doing due processing or processing discipline, you're going to hear things like, it takes a lot of time. That means that they're going through all the steps of due process. You're going to hear things like, I want to make sure I get it right, or that I'm equitable, or that, you know, I'm not trying to be punitive toward the kid. I'm working toward restorative justice. Those are the kinds of things. I think Marcia, you want to tell us your experience with this particular activity?
Sure. For the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were actually, I've done the discipline. I mean, I did that, but since then, being the summer site coordinator, I could probably write a ton more. I think we all could.
Yeah.
That's all I've dealt with is discipline. Yeah. So before I interviewed my assistant principal at Robinson and my assistant principal there, but summer school camp, I've learned that due process is a little bit quicker because it's only 12 days of camp.
Yeah.
So still giving the kids due process, but there's a 0, behavior policy. So we've had to kick several kids out of camp.
Yeah. And you can do that in a
call the
special
parents,
program.
the teacher documents daily. So,
Yeah. But now,
Right.
So obviously, you couldn't do that
kicked
direct
kids off the
term.
bus, kicked kids off. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
You understand
So I've
that.
learned a lot about discipline over the past few weeks.
Yeah, and that's part of doing that. Now, the summer programs that you have in Gaston County, do they vary in content and admission and membership? They're not all the same, are they?
No.
No, the ways to get in are technically the same because it's for Read to Achieve.
Uh-huh.
So there's certain scores that they had to get on their middle of the year assessments, like the benchmark assessments. And so only certain kids at first are invited. They might accept other people later, but it's usually a set amount of kids, like not a set amount because it's anybody who didn't make that mark. But those are the same kids. And then the schedule is kind of made for us. And then the curriculum's made for us.
Yeah.
Summer camp, because they're trying to give everybody the interventions that they need, which everybody's low in reading.
Right.
In those particular ones, not every camp, but the ones that most of us are at, I think, right now. The elementary people, except for Lego.
Yeah, but you understand that you can kind of expedite things in the summer that you can't do during the regular year, because summer camp is an add-on, is an extra kind of thing. But one of the things that always amazed me about young administrators, and I was one time, I know it's hard to believe, but I was one time. I don't know why I knew intuitively when I got my chance to run, a district summer school. We had them in 3 districts, the high school districts in the county where I came through and matriculated. We had 3 high schools, and so we would have 1 summer school for each of the high school districts. So we had 3. And they were for rising 9th graders. They're kids that just finished the 8th grade. And of course, we had a CETA component where anybody know what CETA is or was? And so they would go to school in the morning and work in the afternoon. They were CETA workers. That's federal money, federal, for disadvantaged youth. But we had 3 summer schools. And so you did one for the whole high school district. But the whole notion is I understood it. Again, I don't know why, but I wasn't that smart, that these were struggling kids. And one of the things that later on, in two or 3 districts later, when I was in charge of things, it always amazed me that folks that took jobs in summer school complained about how low the kids were, or how, poorly behaved they were. And I'm like, you do understand that's why we have summer school for these kids. We're trying to help them with some of those social behavior, social skills. We're trying to catch them up academically. We didn't recruit the gifted kids to come to remedial summer school. And part of it is expectations as well. So the notion here is working with doing due process. That doesn't mean that we let them off or we don't hold them to the standards, but there's an expectation that these kinds of things are going to happen. And if you get yourself in that mindset, you don't blame the kids and you don't try to make it punitive. It's easy to say, let's work toward restorative justice. But if you're angry at a kid for taking your time for being a discipline issue, you're going to be more interested in punishing him than you are restorative justice. And so it's easy to see in summer school, because we've grouped all these kids together. It's easy to say, this kid has proclivity to this, and let's not blame him. Let's work with him and try to, blame doesn't help anybody. It just leads to punishment, not to restorative justice. So that's the notion. And that's one of the good things about summer school. And then if you could take those same things and apply them to the regular year, rather than just being mad at the kid for taking your time, if you can find that compassion to work with that child, you'll do a much better job on the restorative justice end. And your goal won't be to see how much punishment or see if you can just deter the kid by beating them. You can neither reward nor punish your way to good behavior. You have to use a balance. You just can't do that. I think of the story, and it's not really relevant here, but I think of the story of one of my wife's relatives' children. They're much your age now, but when they were first married, they moved out into the country from the big city. They were from a very large town and never really been out in the country. And somebody talked to them. They were newly married, talked her into buying a pig. They told her the pig wouldn't stink. And then she was just mad as fire at the pig when the pig stunk. Now, we know that, a grown person ought to know that a pig stinks. Don't blame him. He's just doing what he does. Well, it's kind of the same way with at-risk kids. Don't blame them. You got to know that they're going to have academic behavior challenges. Don't blame them. Find a way to love them and help them. I can show you how to use a matrix. I can show you how to use a tier system. I can teach you PBIS. I can do all these things with you. But if you don't have compassion for kids, you will work toward punishment rather than restorative justice. And your discipline system will be will be a revolving door. It will be a revolving door. The point of having kids in and working with them on due process is to try to prevent that behavior from happening again, not to see how much punishment you can eventually give them. Don't blame the pig for stinking. It's the notion here. All right, so that was the thing to do this week. Debrief. Let's debrief our last case study. We ought to know by now we can't be moving federal money around. We can't be moving state money. The irony of the Leandro right is Leandro's lost the case and it's Leandro right. But the whole notion is we gave this kid $8,000, even though he might be better off than this kid. We can't take that kid's $8,000. That's his Leandro right. That's what we say it costs to get a basic education. And even if the district is going to make it up later, we can't take it because they might not make it up later. And so we can't move federal money, we can't move state money, and we can't lose local money. We need to do priority-based budgeting. What do we need? And if we stick with that, then we'll be okay. But the big thing is know what each pot of money you have is what it can be useful. And I really can't teach you that. I guess I could. Since we all just work in one district, but it even works different from school to school. It even works different from school to school because elementary works different than middle, works different than high because of the different accounts that you have. Title I, if you don't have Title I, it works different at every school. And the first thing that you should do when you get to be principal of your first school is ask for an audit of your books and get started with your bookkeeper learning. All the accounts you have, how much money is, you can ask for an audit, an independent audit of your books so that you know where you are and learn. Don't just assume, well, I did it this way at my last school. No. Or I saw the principal doing it. No. You need to start with an audit and you need to get with your bookkeeper. You need to start from day one, step one. Every account you got, how much money is in it and what I can do with it, period. And you need to do that pretty much. And they will continue. They'll do that audit for you every spring as a regular part of business. They'll do that audit every spring. And you need to sit down with the auditor when they get done and your bookkeeper and look at the results every spring. This is, you got to do this. You got to make sure that you do this. And there's no new way under the sun. As the former superintendent in Chapel Hill, Carborough, found out, there is no way around this stuff. Just no way around it. You're going to follow the rules or you'll find yourself doing something else. You'll definitely lose your house over that. All right. So we looked at our two documents there in our shared folder. I want to talk about our upcoming case study. Our upcoming case study, let me share my screen. Our upcoming case study. Close these. We're Normal Too, and it's about Jimmy and Willie. So let's talk about this one. You probably haven't read it yet. That's okay, because I kind of want to hit you with it before you read it. What I want you to not do that you did in the first one and you did better in the second one and I want you to do better this time. Don't get hung up on Jimmy and Willie being LGBTQ. Don't get hung up. Let's pretend Jimmy and Willie are minority. Let's pretend they're whatever class. Let's pretend they're EC. It doesn't matter. The whole notion here is how do we treat protected classes of people? What are the laws out there that govern how we can treat any students or any class of students? Civil rights law, equal protection law under the 14th Amendment. Don't get hung up on the fact that Jimmy and Willie are gay. It's immaterial. Don't get hung up on the fact that it's same sex over that they've been allowed to do inappropriate displays of infection to the point where it's now they've gotten bolder and bolder and they've enraged the community. Could have been boy-girl stuff. Still, you can't get that's kind of the catalyst for this whole got out of control. Don't forget that even though Jimmy and Willie aren't EC, all kids get the same FERPA protection as EC kids do. What is FERPA protection? Who knows what FERPA protection is?
Cannot discuss the information with other people, basically.
That is correct.
It's not.
When somebody comes in tearing your head off about these kids over here, you can't talk about somebody else's children to those parents. We can talk about your child, but we can't talk about somebody else's child. So when parents come in and start complaining about these two gay kids that want to go to the prom, we can't talk to you about that. I've often said when I retire, I'm going to write a best-selling book, and it's called Discipline for Other People's Children. Nobody ever wants their kids disciplined, but they always want to talk about somebody else's kids. But you can't do that. So we got to remember our rules and our laws that we're learning, we're building here. What is the policy or what is the function of antecedent behaviors? If you ignore the little things, what happens? They become the big things. That's kind of the catalyst for this entire case. Jimmy and Willie, got to slipping around a little bit and got to holding hands a little bit. And then it got, need the fire hose, separate Jimmy and Willie. But it progressed. We didn't stop it when it was stoppable. So, we've got antecedent behaviors working. We've got FERPA working. We've got basic rights working. We've got cyberbullying, bullying. We got that working in this case. We know the laws and how to handle that. We got equal protection, 14th Amendment. We've got heckler's veto. What is heckler's veto? What's in your book? That's the law of the stupidest, the one that's loudest and dumbest, yelling and screaming. And so the notion here is that Marcia wants to do something. Our parents wants to do something, but I'm threatening them. If you do this, I'll get you. And so the school would say to Marcia and Paris, you can't participate in the talent show because if you do, Dale's going to come and create a scene in the ruckus and might harm you. So I'm going to punish you for his behavior. That's what heckler's veto is. Somebody that's loud and stupid, and we abridge somebody else's rights in order under the guise of protecting them over this stupid person rather than dealing with the stupid person and punishing them for their bad behavior. So there's an element of that in this as well. It's kind of like zero tolerance expulsion, but that was, in one of our cases, that was kind of the outlier thing. Well, this one, it's heckler's veto. You need to get into understand what that means and how that frames this case. Again, all of those things are a part of this case. It's not important that they're gay. This could be any protected class. What's important is knowing the law, how to deal with situations like this. So those are your heads up on this. We're building. Now your last one's going to be a doozy. It's got a lot of pieces and parts in it. But again, don't get caught up in stuff that doesn't matter. You know, you got to know what's important and what's not. That's what leadership is, knowing what's important and what's not. Don't get hung up on things that doesn't matter. So that will be your case. It will be due when we get back. We look at our weekly schedule. Next week, have next week off. When we get back the following week, that one will be due. All right. Questions about that? All right. So I won't. Okay. Our time is good. We're going to do a short session tonight because I have a request of you. Let me share my screen. So I know it's boring. I know that it's not good. I know. But here is our disciplinary data reporting manual. I told you this thing is our Bible. We've got to learn this thing from top to bottom, our scenarios. Now, DPI puts out a video. It's from, and the important person is Amy Powell-Moman. She took Ken Gaddis's place that I worked with. So under Zoom session 7, right here, where it says, this video is 58 minutes long. I'm gonna make sure that we don't go over an hour tonight, according to how long it takes me to get through the skip. I want you to watch this video, and you can stop it, go back and forth. It is basically the video of the manual. I know different people learn different ways, but you've got to learn this thing, or you're going to end up in jail if you don't learn this manual. You got to learn this manual. You've got to understand all the different facets of this manual. You've got to dig into this manual. There's no way around it. There's no excuse. There's no substitute. You got to learn this manual. If you do, then your life will be so much easier on the discipline side of administration if you learn the manual and understand what has to be reported and how and why and what to do. If you learn those things, you can protect yourself. And so make sure that you spend some time. I have the latest one right here, and I have the video that goes with it right here. Between these two, spend another hour on this thing. Get yourself familiar with it. There won't be a pop quiz on it, but pretend there will be. All right, so some of you are already at the point where you finished your OMA. Some of you want to coast the rest of the summer. Some of you want to keep on working and get a head start. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our skip tonight. Now, full disclosure, the plan at this point is that, do y'all know Dr. Jill Payne? She works in Dr. Balknight's shop. Well, I've got her approved as, pardon?
I was agreeing with you, sorry.
She is going to teach y'all 604 curriculum in the fall. And I'm going to work with her to get her up to speed. I just got the official approval on her today. And I'm going to work with her to get Blackboard certified. So what I'm going to do to help her is I'll be her caddy in the fall. I'm going to coach for her in the fall to help her with with Blackboard and with the evidence for our fall evidence is skip. So I'm just going to tell you, between now and the fall, I'm going to accelerate you to complete the skip and the cap by the end of the fall. So all that you have in the spring is the solve in your last semester, because I want you to be able to enjoy your last semester with Dr. Stone, not be rushed trying to do the cap and the SOP and finish your competency folio. That competency folio is like doing another evidence. And so I find if we can kind of get a little momentum through summer here and maybe work a little bit and get some good momentum in the fall. Our add-on folks do skip and the cap in the same semester all the time. My group from the fall, we did the skip, the cap, No, see, my group in the fall, we did the OMA and the skip and the cap. We did all three in the fall. And when they went to 605, all they had was the SIOP. And so if y'all can do the skip and the cap in the fall, all you'll have left in the spring is the SIOP, which is 6 tasks. It's a good bit longer. And it'll make life a lot easier. So in that vein, some of you are at that point, so we're going to cover the skip tonight. All right, so let me share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so our next one is school community involvement plan. Okay, the biggest problem that folks have on this one is they don't read the purpose of this. They think that this is about academics, or it's about behavior, or it's about staff development, or any of that stuff. The skip is simply about a partnership between the school community parents. That's what it is. And so you form a skip team, which is probably your PLC that you've had all along, and lead a needs assessment, determine gaps in communication. That's what you do in task. Roll down here to this. Okay. Gaps in communication, period. This is the biggest problem that I have is people want to do a needs assessment of everything in the world. We're just assessing gaps in communication, period. No more. We're not doing most pressing need for academics. Hey, we've already done that. We're not doing growth plan, what needs to be in our growth plan. The needs assessment we did with Marzano or Whitaker. Gaps in communication only. And then stop. All right, you say, but Dale, how am I going to assess gaps in communication? What's that document out there that's got all this wonderful data in it that talks and speaks to communication between the community or the parent/community and school? What is that document called? Hello, is this thing working? What's that document called?
Is it a parent working condition or the parent survey they send out?
Teacher working condition survey. Do y'all have a separate parent survey in Gaston?
Yes.
I believe you do. You have, between the two of those, you've got buku data on those things. So let's look at what the teacher working condition survey that I'm talking about would look like. Community support involvement. Parents are influential decision makers. Maintains clear two-way communication. Good job of encouraging parent involvement. Teachers, your school provide with useful information. Parents know what's going on in this school. Contributing community members support teachers. The community will set the support of this school. Right there you go. And then look at your parent survey data for Gaston County as well. And that will show you, that's your needs assessment. That will show you where your gaps in communication are. So the needs assessment is simply disaggregating this section of the teacher working condition survey and the parent survey from your school on these kinds of things. Please do not bring academics into this. Please do not bring discipline into this. Please don't bring staff development but this is simply gaps in communication between the school and the community/parents. Period. Everybody got that? All right. So let's read on here. So we're going to do that for the purpose of determining our gaps in communication so we can do a better job of connecting with our parents and our community, internal and external communities. For involvement of these two communities, so we need a background description setting. That's a simple copy and paste. You've already done that. Clear statement of needs assessment. Clear purpose is we're looking for gaps in communication so we can do a better job connecting with our community. where might we find a law, by the way, that addresses that we are required to do this? Anybody remember? There's a law out there that says that we're supposed to do this every year. Where's that law? I know you read it. I read it to you. What is North Carolina General Statute 115C 288? What is that statute known as? Somebody, anybody? What is 115C 288?
Is it about drills?
No, duties and responsibilities of the principal. That's the section. All right, Savannah's on the right track here. 115C 288. What does it say? What are subsections underneath it? What are you supposed to do?
Supposed to grade the student. Supposed to, do
fire drills, all that stuff. Yeah. But also says you got to do what? NCGS 115C 288. Pretty simple to find it. What's it say right here?
Improve community spirit.
There you go. We're supposed to engage with the community, aren't we? And give, so the whole notion here is we're supposed to, by law, engage with the community and try to increase community spirit. I mean, that's, so when people say, what's the rationale for doing this? Well, it's the right thing to do, and we want to engage with these people, but it's also, we're required to engage with them. But the notion here is that that's why we're doing this needs assessment. That's why we do TWC. That's why we do parent survey, so that we can engage with these people and build a sense of community spirit about the school, that they're proud of their school and they support their school, that they feel valued by their school. That's why we're doing this. Yes, there's a law that says we're supposed to, but we see the value in it. Now, so that's the reason why we're doing this thing. So when I get that every semester, I don't know why we're doing this. Well, because it's the right thing to do. If you can't understand that, you can understand there's a law that says you have to do it. A clear statement of the purpose. That's what we're talking about. A clear statement of the purpose. Why we're doing this. We're going to pull this data from TWC and the parent survey. But this is why. It doesn't take but a couple sentences and you're good. You go move on. But you need to know why you're doing it. All right. List participants, whoever's on your team that's on this, analysis of your findings. What did your survey say? A set of recommendations identifies avenues of communication that will be established, both short and long term. Now, here's where we just absolutely run off the road and hit a tree every time. Long-term goals are not just short-term goals for a longer period of time. They are different things. Let me say that again. Long-term goals are different than short-term. They're not just an extension of the long-term. The short-term goals that we're looking for in this case are we're trying to find something using social media platforms to better connect with students, with parents of students and community members. Twitter, Facebook, having our own website. We're trying to find a way that we can communicate and parents can go. I'll just tell you right now, me and my buddies communicate on WhatsApp. We started so long ago, it was free. I think it's $1 now. But what network have you established? Other than the old phone tree where one person called 10 people. That's century before last. What are you doing to communicate with these people? That's your short-term goal, is find a way to communicate with these people. That's short-term. Continuing to do it on and on is not long-term. The notion here is if we can connect with parents and community members, then we can get them to come to our school. Now, don't be the idiot that thinks that just having parents come in will automatically make your test scores up. It won't. The notion here is help us help you help your child. Long-term goals would be family math night, family reading night, family EOG night, family EOC night, where we get parents in and work with them to help their child. One of the things that's been highlighted during the pandemic that really makes me madder than a wet hen is this notion that it's the school's responsibility to educate children. It's our responsibility to help parents educate their child. We can't be the sole responsibility person. Only 10% of the variance in a kid's test scores can be traced back to us. The rest of it has to do with things outside of our control. But for some reason, we as a society just dump it all on teachers. Oh, it's the school's fault. My kid's not an idiot. No, it's hereditary. That's the reason your kid's an idiot. That's the problem. But we've fallen into this trap. We won't get parents back in our building and help them, teach them to use manipulative with their kid, work with them on reading for their kid, with their kid. All of those that's long-term. Short-term is how do we hook them? And long-term is once we hook them, what are we going to do with them? We just have them come to your building for a ball game or a talent show won't make your scores go up. It just won't. Y'all are close enough to Charlotte and remember, I don't know if you remember back in the aughts when Olympic won 9 or 10 state football titles. Do you realize, I was in the central office by then, do you realize that they would have 40,000 people in Mint Hill on Friday night for a ball game, a high school football game? Do you think their test scores went up a bit? They had 40,000 people on their campus every week. No, they didn't go up at all. They didn't go up at all. There's a lot of very good research that says if you have parents in, that it can actually hurt your test scores if they're not there for the right reasons. That's why a lot of schools have banned parents from coming in, just dropping by, being disruption. Tripping another kid so their kid can get in front of them in line. That kind of stuff. But we want parents to come into our building. But we want to have a plan for them, something that we can do. Again, let us help you help your child. What can we do with you that will help you when your child goes home, that will extend the learning that we started with them here? That's the long-term goals that we're looking for. Now, again, the common things are family math night, family reading night, math manipulative night, whatever. But I'll tell you the story of the greatest one I ever saw. The greatest one I've had two that were great. The greatest one of those was at Northwest Guilford. They're a suburban school just north of Greensboro. They were a good school. Ralph Kitley was principal there. You can Google Ralph if you don't know basketball. But anyway, I had 6 interns there at one time, but the 2 that were the most relevant were Keisha Sinclair, was a business teacher, and Diana Birdsey. But they did a job fair. You say, well, Dale, how's that a long-term goal? Well, what they did was Keisha partnered with Novant and set up the job fair in the gym. And at each table, it was like an X-ray technician, what the job is, how much it paid, what education you needed from what school, but also was a list of the advanced courses and AP courses that you would need in high school in order to get into that college, to get that degree, to get that high-paying job with Novant or in the medical field. And they partnered with Novant. They did a lunch, and I went, was a guest, the whole deal. But here's the trick. They didn't just have the seniors walk through. They had every freshman and their parents come through. They set aside a time for them, every freshman and their parents. And what did those parents see? They saw those higher level courses those kids need to sign up for. Used to be advanced courses started in the 10th and AP in 11th and 12th. I know it's been bumped down now. But those parents saw that. And so, get involved with your child. They had when your child signs up, registers, make sure they register for those advanced classes. Got the parents involved. They were let us help you help your child get this good paying job, get this good college degree. They went from a middle of the road BC school to within 2 years, they had the highest number of kids taking advanced courses of any high school in North Carolina. Let me say that again. They went to the most of any high school. It transformed that school and that community. It was an amazing thing to see. But again, they didn't just, the ninth graders is the ones that see, and their parents are the ones that need to see that. The horse is out of the barn for the 12th graders. The die is cast, fill in the blank, overused metaphor here. It's done with them. But those ninth graders, what an outstanding event that was. With no bond. It was incredible. And I want to say they had like 100 kids, and then the next thing you knew, they had 2,000 kids taking advanced courses. It was just the most amazing transformation we've ever seen. They just needed that push. That's the best one I've ever seen. The second best one I ever seen. And the only reason it's second best is because it failed miserably to start with. So I had a group, I think, of 4, Dr. Wendy and Jonathan and Lisa Bohr and one more. I had a group of 4 at Parkland High School in Winston-Salem. And what they wanted to do was a family night for their ESL students, the Hispanic students that they had. It was a large Hispanic, they underwent a attendance zone shift, and all of a sudden they got a huge Hispanic population that they weren't used to, and they were trying to connect with those parents services. And so designed a wonderful night for them, and two showed up. That would be 2 showed up. And what a miserable, what an abject failure that was. And so, but we kind of stepped back and looked at it and said, who should we be partnering with out in the community to get an idea of what's going on here? And we found Father Jose, who was the local priest at the local church that all the Hispanic folks went to in that community, but he knew everybody. Figured out that you got to have it during the day when the city buses are running, because they don't have cars. Did all that. And so we ran it. So version 2, we ran it. Again, we had 2 parents show up at the first meeting where we were working with them, to help them with their children, get them signed up and those things. The second meeting, we had 400. We went from 2, not 200, 2 to 400. Second meeting, we had 400. It transformed that school, got those parents involved, got them kids signed up, got some other services for them, got them in the principal was but he was very kind. He was very complimentary, but he became a hero, which is a good thing. I mean, the good thing about him was he was just smart enough to get out of the way. Sometimes you just got to be smart enough to get out of the way. And that's what he did. And it transformed that school. That's what transformed Parkland, got them from being low performing to being a good, solid school, was that skill that Dr. Wendy and Jonathan and Lisa put on. That's what pulled them out. And David was the 4th. That's what pulled them out. That is correct. So these things can be transformational. I mean, they really can transform your school. Now, I'm not looking, I fully understand that that doesn't happen every time out. Those are anomalies. Those are outliers, but you never know. Give it a shot. So, and then the last thing in task 1 is you've got to do an audit of your school leadership from the teacher working conditions survey. Now, not teacher leadership, school leadership. Now you say, well, this might get ugly, and it might. Okay, so your set of recommendations that you have coming out of prompt 1 of task 1 is you've got your short term, which is communication, long term, which is an event. And then the third thing that comes out of it is you do an analysis of the TWC, and it's for school leadership, nothing else. Should evaluate school leadership. And so if we go back and look, I can close that. Right there, that's the one we're looking for. So I was working with one of my doctoral students yesterday. We were finishing up her data. She's in Orange at Central Elementary School, and we've been doing her dissertations on teacher retention. A lot of teachers leaving there. And we collected a lot of data, and people have kind of disputed that, maybe that data is not accurate. And then, of course, last week when this came out, what does this say? Or last month, excuse me. What does this say? What's in red here? Well, everything's in yellow, and then you got some red ones. And so now we've drilled down and got a little more specific at the doctoral level, but you don't have to. These are the things that you're looking at. There's an atmosphere of trust. Teachers in your school feel comfortable raising issues. Look at these things here. You need to do an audit of this. Now, this is about leadership in your district. You don't have to do that part. You just have to go through K and look at that. And then you need to make recommendations of what your school leadership needs to do. If you got numbers, especially like these in yellow or the ones in red. Now, understand the state codes these. I didn't code these in yellow and red. But if you see anything in yellow or red, you better address it. Blue's kind of middle, but green is good. But this is what you're looking for. So in the end, these are the things that you're going to come out of task one with. It is, we're going to have short-term goals, we're going to have long-term goals and recommendations to improve school leadership. And once we've done that, it gets really easy after that in terms of all we have to do in task 2 is identify the human and fiscal resources needed to pull these things off. Fiscal means money, human means people. And you say, well, Dale, how are we going to present that? We're going to write it up in a narrative just like it asked us to. And then we're going to go to our graphic organizer example. That's right there under task and prompts. And we're going to use this one. This one is for task 2. What activities, again, short-term or long-term, and principal improvement activities, timeline, persons responsible, what money we're going to need, and what people we're going to need. And then all we're going to do when we get to task 3 is we're going to write it up. We're going to write up all these things, and we're going to summarize all of it in this one, our standard graphic organizer. And then for task 4, we're going to simply write the competencies that we didn't write for the OMA. So it goes real fast after you complete task 1. It goes real fast. You got to pull all that stuff together. And there's not a lot of stuff to pull together. It's just parent survey, teacher working conditions survey, pull that stuff together and figure out what your problems are. What are you going to, what kind of social media platform or how are you going to attract parents, communicate with them and hook them to get them to know to come when and where. What are you going to do? And then what kind of event? What kind of events are you going to do? You say, Bill, look at your data that you did in your tab in your app cell. what does your school improvement plan say you need to be working on? Where is your data? Where's your gaps in data? Where are you not doing well? That's the things that I would focus on to do my family nights or whatever. I mean, just like at Northwest Guilford, they identified that they didn't have very many kids signed up for advanced classes, and this is what they came up with. What a wonderful idea. Maybe it's math, so we'll have a family math night. What is it that you need to put some extra emphasis in? That kind of event. That's what I would pick if it were me. Not something that's kind of immaterial. What could we do that would help this area where we need extra help and support? What could we do there? That's the notion here. So that's the skip. It's pretty easy. But the notion here again, when you say, why do I have to do this? Well, not just because Dale told me to, but it's the right thing to do. But it's also, state law says we're supposed to work on these kinds of things, where we partner and do community spirit kind of thing, where we get the school, where the school becomes an integral part of the community, and not just for a ball game. And not just for a ball game, because that won't help us academically. We need to get parents involved in academic kinds of things that where they can help their child. Let us help you help your child. That's the whole notion of the skip. All right, questions you have for me about the skip? We all good? You know what your assignment is, the extra hour that I'm letting you out tonight. You got to spend with that manual and watch that video. You got to get conversant with that manual. That's very important. Next week, you have the week off. The week after, we do our case study on Jimmy and Willie. Then we'll have one more content session, and then our last session will be our big case study where we put everything that we learned this semester together. All right, and again, Dr. Payne has been approved. She'll be your instructor for the fall. I'll be her caddy. I'll do the coaching part and work with her. So I'm looking forward to that. And then you'll have Dr. Stone in the spring. So that kind of gives us a roadmap or a plan on where we're going. Anybody have anything they want to share? Wonderful experiences for summer school? Somebody's got to tell a funny story on something that's happened in summer school. Summer school is always a riot. Nobody has anything that they've done in summer school that they'd like to share with the group.
Well, Alex and Megan and I are at Legos camp, which when y'all were talking about behavior earlier, we have a little bit even more no tolerance because Lego camp is not academic and it was a first come, first serve.
Right.
That part has been different. But we have 600 kids at our camp and
wow.
3 going on at one time. So we have lots of stories. We would probably keep y'all on here forever, but we have had a bus driver have a medical emergency on the side of the road. And he had to pull over, could not drive. So drivers had to go out to him and get kids. And so Megan and I got to talk to our principal about that afterwards, and what all she had to do with going and physically sitting with the bus. And we got to really learn a lot from that situation. And then
and Alex had to go get the bus.
Yes, Alex has his CDLs. So
well, there you go.
Great time.
You'll be the first one to get a job then.
It's a blessing and a curse.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
But we're getting a lot of transportation experience.
Well, I told you that's the best part of summer school. You're not going to get a lot of academic or scheduling, but you'll get a lot of good bus experience, and you'll get an idea of what you can kind of do to avoid some of those during the regular year. That's why I was telling you that's the good part of summer school is you learn a lot about buses, and you don't have the pressure of the academic piece during the summer.
It's very different. It's surreal to not be in a class because my actual principal, he asked me today, like how something about the lessons, how the Lego lessons are.
Yeah.
I was like, I have not stepped foot in a classroom.
Mhm.
I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I can tell you how to get them home, but I can't tell you anything else about that. But I think we've learned a lot about communication also, because I've taken a lot of we all have taken a lot of angry calls, like literally for our bus drivers, because there was a point where, you know, we had to decide when to step in and just let us be the that take the heat for the drivers and stuff like that. And so we a lot of I would say almost I've learned more about communication than I have about transportation as a whole. So yeah, it's been a lot of learning.
Yeah. Well, the good part, and you just highlighted, is transportation deals with parents more than it does with kids, and that's where the learning part comes in. I mean, you can learn how to do a route, but you have to deal with parents on a daily basis with buses. That's the majority of that, and it is good training on how to deal with irate people and people that, you know, aren't overburdened with intelligence or self-awareness. I mean, you know, that's you know, unfortunately in the world, the loudest are usually the stupidest, and you learn that with buses real quick if you didn't already know that. But yeah, it's good lessons to know. It's good things to learn. There's a lot of good things to learn for dealing with summer and buses. There's a lot of good stuff there. It's ironical that you mentioned, and I'm not trying to be a top. One of my students in my other class that meets last night, Maggie Gillum, Savannah was there. Maggie, if you remember, Savannah is AP up in Henderson County. She was a long-time instructional coach and just switched over to AP, and so she's at the same place that you are. They had a medical emergency on the bus as well. How ironical is that? And so yeah, that happens every now and then. And she learned a lot about, you know, they had to take him to the hospital, dealing with the media. Not, you know, don't say anything. You know that you never talk with the media. You know, you public information office speaks to the media. You never speak to the media.
That is good old Todd Hagen's job for us. he handles the communications.
Yeah, we never talk with the media. And so, you know, your last case study, I mean, your last activity is what happens if, you know, you're supervising a field trip and the bus gets hit from the rear. I mean, you know, call 911 immediately. You're not a doctor. And you know, you don't want to be on the stand and say, well, I didn't think anybody was hurt. Don't think. That's not what we're paying you for. You know, you're hurting the team here. You know, call 911. But the main thing is, you know, don't say anything to parents and media. Well, nobody was hurt, and then somebody's hurt and you get sued. They said nobody was hurt. We didn't get the medical attention we need. We never speak to the media ever. We always go through public information. So that's a good one to learn. All right, our hour's up tonight. Spend the other hour wisely. You know, digging into that manual, watch that video, whichever you learn best from. But you got to get a handle on that manual. That's very important. And so I'm excited for you and with you for your summer experiences. I think this is the most marvelous thing. I'm happy that y'all are getting to do that. I will see you, I guess, in 2 weeks.
Dr.
Everybody
Lamb.
have a good holiday.
Dr. Lamb, I'm sorry. Can I stay on just a minute with you?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'll see y'all in 2 weeks. I'm going to pause.